today for the purpose of dedicating and formally handing over to Whanganui the drinking fountain beside which we now stand. Your presence as a private citizen was requested because, sir, this fountain has been erected to commemorate your noble gift of the waters of Westmere to the inhabitants of this town. And it was felt that the inaugural ceremony finished as the most fitting opportunity for publicly and personally thanking you and of acquainting you officially with what your fellow citizens have done and recognition of your magnificence. It was towards the close of 1873 that the advisability of obtaining a copious and unfailing supply of pure water for Whanganui was first seriously entertained. Experience showed that the safety of the town and the health and comfort of the inhabitants demanded the adoption of some comprehensive scheme by which the subject might be brought about. The townspeople found themselves almost powerless against the ravages of fire, and domestic requirements were but poorly met by the average rainfalls by wells of indifferent quality and by an expensive and not altogether wholesome river supply brought to their doors by means of water carts. These consultations led to the discussions of the subject in the Borough Council, and it seems that the difficulties to be faced were comparatively light, for what was deemed an inexhaustible and pure supply was close at hand, and elevation making the water available at a high pressure for extinguishing fires and working machinery. The Borough Council came to the determination to borrow £30,000 for various municipal improvements, chiefly amongst which were the works for tapping the Virginia Lake and for a pipe service throughout the town. The loan was floated in the London market and the waterworks plant was ordered and in due course arrived in Whanganui. The operation of laying the mains was commenced in September 1875 and completed in the early part of the following year. The Virginia Lake was tapped in February 1876, but it soon became evident that the source of supply was not nearly so great as had been calculated. The springs which were said to exist in the lake failed to renew the water to any considerable extent, and in October 1876 the level of the connecting main was reached and the flow shortly afterwards stopped. Recourse was then had to pumping, and for a whole year the inhabitants were supplied in that inconvenient fashion at a cost of £1 a day. Meanwhile the water level continued to fall, and the Borough Council was thus brought face to face with a question of the most serious importance. An outlay of £18,000 involving an annual interest charge of £11,000 had been incurred, and the expenditure threatened to be a total loss unless some fuller source of water supply could be rendered available. The service was recognised as a domestic necessity by the inhabitants, many of whom had since the laying of the water dispensed altogether with cisterns. The substantial value of the service whilst it lasted had also been tested in numerous cases of fire. It is not surprising, therefore, that the threatened failure of the waterworks scheme was viewed with general dismay. In this pressing emergency, you, sir, came to the assistance of your fellow townsmen in a most liberal and public-spirited manner. You offered them for all time, and as a free gift, the waters of Lake Westmere, situated in the heart of your own estate, on which you also allowed ample land for the construction of the necessary connecting works. The Borough Council, on behalf of the inhabitants of Whanganui, thankfully accepted the gift and immediately proceeded to turn it to good account. Lake Westmere was connected with a reservoir having at first a storage capacity of 10,000 gallons, which was afterwards enlarged to 22,000 gallons. From that time, the town of Whanganui derived its entire water supply from the new and copious source thus made available. You, sir, are doubtless well content with having rendered a great service to the community, and which your lot is cast. The satisfaction of seeing your gift utilised to the fullest extent, of knowing that the blessing of a pure and ample water supply is brought within reach of each resident in the borough, and that danger from the ravages of fire has been enormously reduced, is by you deemed an ample reward for a concession which originated entirely with yourself and the value of which cannot be disputed. But your fellow citizens, who daily and hourly profit by that concession, deem it right to thank you publicly for your gift and to testify their appreciation of your liberty in a manner which will keep the recollection of it fresh in the minds not only of the present but of future generations of the citizens of Whanganui. In this most public thoroughfare of the town, they have therefore erected in commemoration of the gift of Westmere Waters this drinking fountain, placed on its tablet a suitable inscription. The Borough Council of Whanganui, who cheerfully consented to the erection of the fountain in this place, are its proper custodians, and to you, sir, in your public capacity as the elected Chief Magistrate of Whanganui, I now hand the fountain over on behalf of the subscribers. Now, that was the speech that Mr. Peter Bell read to William Hogg Watt at the opening of the Watt Memorial Fountain on the 7th of September 1881. It speaks of the urgency of water needing to reach Whanganui City because they didn't have access to it. It spoke of how the council at the time spent £30,000 on ineffectively tapping Virginia Lake as a water source. These days, that equates to $5.7 million. Makes the money spent on the wastewater treatment plant not seem too bad. The speech refers to the Rutland Hotel fire because when the fire struck, the community got stuck in and created lines of people all the way up from the Whanganui River to the Rutland Hotel, handing buckets of water to each other, back and forth in an attempt to extinguish the fire. Of course, this didn't work and much of the building was lost. The generous gift of the fountain given to the city of Whanganui is more than just a roundabout with a pretty heritage feature on it, but it is a poignant moment from history when the need to have fresh drinking water and water for the risk of fires was imminent. William Hogg Watt's generosity was considered a gift of life to the town. Thank you for joining us this evening as we celebrate the Watt Memorial Fountain's 136th anniversary. My name is Chris McKenzie and I will be your MC this evening. This part of the evening will not be a long one. In fact, I've just read the longest speech, which will be the longest part of the evening, and we'll be finishing just after 6 p.m. However, as you can see, Victoria Avenue has been closed up to Majestic Square, and food, shopping and entertainment will continue until 8 p.m. tonight. The majority of the shops have stayed open this evening, so please make sure you support our local businesses while you're here. Firstly, we would like to personally welcome and acknowledge the following: His Worship the Mayor, Hamish McDouall, and Whanganui District Councillors, Mainstreet Whanganui Chair Peter Robinson and the Executive Board members, Four Regions Trust, formerly Powerco Trust, Vice Chair Ed Boyd and any trust members present, Michael Warwick, a public lighting designer representing Stephenson and Turner, those tradesmen that worked on the fountain including Ritchie Minnell of Ritchie Minnell Services, Rob Mancer and the team from Adrian Barnes Electricians, Sean Johnson and the team from Allan Tong Ltd, and of course Amanda, Robin, Julie, Kelly and Jeff from Mainstreet Whanganui. We are also lucky and privileged to have with us here today descendants of Mr. Watt. Welcome to great-grandson Jim Watt, great-great-granddaughter Annie, and Whanganui-based descendants Anna, Gay, David and their partners, and any other descendants present this evening. Years ago, Mainstreet Whanganui looked at restoring a feature within the town centre and sourced advice on lighting the fountain. The work started in 2016 with plumbing work underneath the fountain. Most are not aware of this, but there is a manhole on the Wakefield Chambers side of the fountain. When you enter it, it is small, dark and very damp, and Ritchie Minnell called this home on and off for the next 10 months or so. The piping and pumps required replacements. Next, the 4 lion heads were removed for cleaning and jade green tiles were put into the niches to further enhance these. Then was the need to install lighting. However, when you start a project like this, you discover things that weren't an apparent issue come to light as you move through the process. This is when it was discovered, among other things, that the arms holding the 5 lanterns needed replacing, and the fountain itself, made of plaster and concrete, needed waterproofing to ensure further longevity. So began the process of rock coat, fiberglass, galvanised steel and paint. Thank you to Sean and the team at Allan Tong Ltd for completing this in between very threatening winter weather. While this was happening, behind the scenes in a workshop office in Wellington, lighting designer Michael Warwick from Stephenson Turner had been looking at improving the lantern light. The results are fantastic. The copper and lead lanterns will no longer run on gas, but Michael has created a lighting effect that still gives the glow that the gas lantern created. And reflectors in the top of the lanterns add to this feature, so it can now be seen from the ground. At last, we get to the lighting of the actual fountain. Once again, commissioned by Mr. Warwick, the pools of water and fountain spouts also have been lit with LED lighting and can change colour and lighting patterns depending on the event. Green for St Patrick's Day, for example, or red or blue, depending on who wins the election. Rob Mancer and the team for Adrian Barnes Electricians have worked tirelessly on this project with Mainstreet, Whanganui, and a big thank you goes out to them. Now, this work doesn't happen for nothing, and restoration and improvements often come at a significant cost. Mainstreet, Whanganui would like to acknowledge 4 Regions Trust, formerly Powerco Trust, for their generous funding towards the fountain lighting. Thank you for your financial assistance in getting this project off the ground. Can we please give them a round of applause? Wherever you travel the world to see a site or visit a monument or structure, you will always find a memento or keepsake to remember the journey. Lucky for us, we have a passionate local who in 2007 printed the first edition of her book, Whanganui's Watt Fountain. And this week, she has printed the 3rd edition, 136th anniversary copy, which is available to purchase tonight. Thank you to Marion Rainfall for taking the time to highlight an important part of our history and keeping it for further generations to enjoy. Books are available for $20 and can be purchased from Amanda Gibbons, and Marion is available for book signing. The Mayor, Hamish, McDouall and other dignitaries will now cut the ribbon. Very hard to cut a wet ribbon.
I declare it open.
Restoration is complete and officially unveiled.
Yeah, it's great to celebrate something like this. I mean, it's been such a significant feature of the town. And I remember when it used to be up by the Alexander Library, so it's just great to have it back where it was designed and to have it reopened and probably needs a bit of a wash because it's got the red dye down the side, but it's just magnificent to have it open.
Today was a huge turnout, far more than what we anticipated, for the opening of the Watt Fountain. The fountain is lit up now, it's absolutely fantastic. And it will be a feature not only during the daytime, but at night time too.
Very, very happy to be involved in this. I'm the Vice Chair of the 4 Regions Trust, and we were very, very, very pleased as a group of people to put funds towards getting the lights all sorted. And to think that Whanganui is starting to grow and that things are now happening, especially with what's happened along here with the Zeland building and this with the Watt Fountain. At least something's happening at last in Whanganui. We've had some pretty good things with the riverboat and the tram, and this happening now just makes it even more interesting.